Pokemon cards have always had incredible art, but if you look at any standard Pokemon deck list, you can see that there are dozens of different artists credited throughout the different cards included. However, what if all the cards in a given deck were illustrated by the same person? Could a deck like that still win? What if that one person was me? Hi, my name is Josh, but you can call me Uniform, and I am delusional. Which is why today I'm going to be answering the question of, can I win a Pokemon card tournament if all the cards in my deck were illustrated by me? But before I can really get into the nitty-gritty of how this all works, I want to give a super quick overview of how the Pokemon trading card game goes. Each player starts the game by drawing 7 cards into their hand. The next 6 cards that you take off your deck are put to the side as your prize cards. Your goal is to use your Pokemon's attacks to knock out your opponent's Pokemon and take those prize cards as rewards. You attach energy cards to your Pokemon to fulfill the attack's requirement, and along the way, you'll be playing different trainer cards to search your deck, power up, or even disrupt your opponent. The first player to take all 6 prize cards is the winner. For the deck I'll be making in this video, I'll be putting my illustrations onto proxy versions of real cards. Proxy cards are basically just fake cards that players will use to test out new deck strategies before getting their hands on the real deal. Basically, I'll build a deck, make new art for each of the included cards, then bring my deck of my illustrations to a casual league tournament at my local card store and try to take home the win. But what deck am I actually going to be playing? There are a bunch of super powerful decks in the game right now that I could easily illustrate and have an easy time taking wins with, like Alakazam, Mega Lopunny, Dipplin, or Satan himself. Although, since I'll be making all these cards, I want to use this as an opportunity to test out something new that I don't have all the cards for yet, which is why I landed on a deck centered around the all-new Mega Greninja EX. With its ability, I can spread damage all over my opponent's board, then swing for big numbers with its attack. It functions very similar to the current most powerful card in the game, Dragapult EX. Funny enough, this deck plays both of these powerful attackers, since the energy card Neo Upper Energy can allow us to include them without including 3 different types of basic energy to fulfill their attack costs. Lucky for us, the Pokemon Dragapult evolves from Dracloak, which is a Pokemon with a super strong ability that lets us draw a ton of cards from our deck, which helps us find what we need when we need it. I'm also playing 2 copies of the Terrascalized Greninja EX, since it has some strong attacks that we can use, and it evolves from Froakie, just like Mega Greninja. At this point, I had pretty much decided what I wanted my deck strategy to be. However, my exact list of 60 cards had yet to be set in stone, which is why I have to do a bit of testing with it before I can decide what number of which cards I should actually play. And what is the best place to test out new decks when you have no friends in the area who play this game? Welcome to Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, the ranked ladder. Pokemon TCG Live is a very stable game with no glitches whatsoever that lets anyone play the game online on mobile or PC. And we can use random online matches in this game to get a sense of how our deck actually plays, and based on our matches, fine-tune our deck list to the best that we can. Here is the current list that I'm going to be running for Mega Greninja, and I'm going to test this out in a few games on the ladder. Yeah, I'll see if I want to make any changes to this after I play a few games with it, see how I'm feeling with this current list, and let's just hop right into it. We are getting into our first game against this guy. I think we want to go first with this deck for sure. I mean, it could definitely work going second. That's the entire reason we have Budew, to put on that early game pressure with its item lock ability. Speak of the devil. Hey, oh, yes. That's exactly what we were looking for. I thought this was Mega Lopunny. Is this a Mega Pyroar deck? That card stinks. I think I win as long as he doesn't play this thing, special red card, and I lose all the cards in my hand. As long as that doesn't happen, we got the win in the bag. Doesn't even matter. We win anyway. We take those. Here we go. It's us versus the top deck in the game, Dragapult EX. Finally, a worthy opponent. And now, this is the power of the Terra Greninja EX. This is why we play 2 of them. We bring up his main attacker that he's currently trying to power up. We use this attack to both knock it out And we can grab whatever card we want out of our deck. And now, with this Pokemon also, same guy, we take out his two little guys. And it costs us nothing. Tails never fails. I think Tails failed. And now we can't even use items. Oh my gosh! It's pretty much my first time really playing the game with sound effects on, and I'm just noticing how weird the shuffle sound effect is. Why does it sound like a fish? This game is so strange, man. Oh no. Oh, thank goodness. Please give me a Hilda or something, please. This is so stupid. Just give me the cards I need. I am so dumb. I am so stupid. Oh boy, level 85. Oh boy, 50 useless currency points. You know what they say, Tails never fails. I was right. Got to be kidding me. What even is this? What? Hey, let's go. Somehow, we pulled through. I don't really think there's any changes for me to make. I mean, I was really expecting to change some counts of some cards, but I think this is the best version of the deck that I can make. Now, our deck is decided upon, and it's time to draw the new art for the 26 unique cards included in this deck. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. That took too long. Please subscribe. I decided to start this project with drawing the Pokemon themselves, which I had 11 unique ones to take care of. I used a lot of references from the Pokemon that I was actually drawing, and how some of my favorite artists tend to represent a ton of these different magical creatures for their job. For example, I can look at an artist like Akira Agawa and take note of how they always show a lot of movement in their art towards a specific point. Take this Espathra from Paradox Rift expansion, for example. While the Pokemon is obviously the main focus of the card, Agawa uses a lot of shooting stars in the sky, lens flares, and dust all over the sand dunes to create a sense of flow towards the sun on the horizon. I wanted to use a similar effect throughout some of these arts, create the sense of movement through an environment in some of the different Pokemon that I drew. Another artist that I enjoy the work of that I took a lot of inspiration from is Hayao Ganosuke. Their style is much more cel-shaded, but they make up for the lack of detail with very strong color and value. Despite the fact that their work has no outlines, because of their values, the Pokemon always stands out against the background, even when the picture is completely desaturated. As for the Pokemon themselves, the first one that I took care of was Budew, which I surrounded it with a bunch of the different item cards in this deck and in the Pokemon trading card game because of Budew's effect. That makes it one of the strongest Pokemon in the game right now, which basically gives it the ability to stop the other player from playing item cards during their next turn. This hydrogen bomb of a coughing baby is hoarding all of the items that can't be played during the next turn. However, when I moved on to Froakie, I tried to do something a bit different. I tried to draw Froakie in the location where you find it in Pokemon Legends ZA, which is Wild Zone 16. However, I guess I bit off a bit more than I can chew when trying to recreate these in-game locations, since I was really not a big fan of how this art was turning out, and didn't want to commit a large amount of time into one singular card art. On top of the fact that I was constantly putting my art skills to the test in this project, through so many different pieces in so many different styles. Something else that was being put to this test was my efficiency. I am a slow artist. It takes me, on average, like 1 to 2 hours just to do a small sketch of a character like Tatum or Bee, who I've literally drawn thousands of times over the past year. Because I have so many cards to draw, I needed to kind of teach myself how to do it quickly. However, this kind of all went out the window with the immediate next card art that I would take care of, that being Mega Greninja. I wanted to experiment with a different background and coloring style, however it took me an agonizingly long time to nail down exactly what I wanted to do with these elements. This was the longest card to illustrate out of the full project, with a whopping 4 hours spent on it. However, lucky for me, my efficiency did kind of tend to pick up with the next few arts that I did. Skipping past them, the next card art that I really spent a lot of time making look good was the terrestrialized Greninja, which ended up being one of my favorites of the entire project. I took a lot of inspiration from some of the other already existing Greninja cards because I wanted this one to have a completely different atmosphere to its Mega counterpart. While the Mega is noisy and aggressive, Terra Greninja is calming and mysterious. I even broke out the Fibonacci spiral with the petals to give the art a good sense of flow towards the focal point, that being the Pokemon itself. Dragapult and Meowth are two more illustrations where my main goal was just to kind of create a feeling with them and create a specific kind of atmosphere. Meowth welcomes you from its cat bed in the golden hour of the morning, and Dragapult is represented in a way that it really hasn't been in any of its existing artwork, an ominous and threatening presence, like the meta threat that it currently is. It even tells a story with the art of its previous evolutions, where the Streepy is evolving as it rises through this raging storm. Serendipity is the last Pokemon that I made in this process, and it is another case of me messing around with things that I really haven't done before as a part of this project. This was my first time trying to make a drawing that is fully, completely symmetrical. I wanted it to be like one of those ancient murals, or something you see on a rich person's living room rug. I even ended up referencing its ability with the 3 cards included beneath it, and its in-game lore, with symbols representing the Pokemon Ogerpon and Pecharunt. The gold outlines with their own shine makes it look more embroidered and royal. The item and energy card illustrations were what I really did next, and each one of these took on average about 30 minutes to complete, which is much shorter than each of the Pokemon we're taking. There isn't a ton of references or things to really note here. It was mostly just me taking the already existing card art and redrawing it in my own style with a very simple background. For the one stadium card included in the deck, Surfing Beach, I didn't directly reference any of the existing stadium art, but just kind of drew a beach. This is when I really noticed my efficiency start to pick up and get a little bit faster, because previously a background like this would have taken me at least an hour or so to fully complete, but I was able to finish this one in just 30 minutes. Supporter cards are the final type of card that I needed to draw for this project, which this deck plays 4 of. Each one of these supporter cards features a unique human character from the Pokemon video games. And even though I tried to draw each of these humans in my own unique art style to set it apart from their already existing arts, I took a lot of inspiration from the style of the ultra rare variants of these cards that, despite being drawn by different artists, has a pretty similar art style throughout them. There's clear outlines, there's simple cell shading, and somewhat simplistic backgrounds. These human characters are a lot more difficult to draw than the Pokemon because, unlike these cartoony creatures, there's a lot to learn when it comes to representing human anatomy and form in a way that is both accurate and kind of flows well. Even when stylizing humans like I do, you need to know the rules before you can really start to break them. I still have a lot to learn about how to draw anatomy well, however, drawing these already existing characters was a good bit of practice for me. First supporter card that I drew was Boss's Orders, featuring the character Getsis. The most recent iterations of this card show Getsis as he appears in the original Pokemon Black and White. I decided to switch things up a bit and draw Getsis as he appears in the sequels, Pokemon Black and White 2. I even made the background a simplistic version of the giant chasm. With each of the supporters I drew, I played around a lot with the color and rendering, utilizing different blend modes as well, like add and multiply, to make the lighting more interesting. Like how I drew Getsis in his alternate look, I did something similar with Dawn. In each of her existing TCG cards, she is shown as she appears in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, but for my art, I drew her in her outfit from Pokemon Platinum instead. Hilda, I decided to draw in a more dynamic and battle-ready pose, simply because I saw this cool pose on Instagram Reels earlier that morning, and I just thought it would look cool with the character. The background, although, was a bit of a struggle here. The softer brushes that I was using didn't really mesh well with the general cityscapes of the Unova region. I tried my best to hide it behind some gusts of wind and leaves blowing around the best I could. The final card that I illustrated for the whole project was Lily's Determination. Not only is it one of my favorite characters of the Pokemon series, but also one of the most powerful supporter cards of all time. I knew I had to get this right. I even thought it would be cute to draw Lily in this specific pose, since it is the same pose that I drew her in 9 years ago in my first piece of digital art I ever made. Look at that 9-year difference. With all of the illustrations done, it was time to turn them into functioning cards. I used the website PokeCard Maker to import my illustrations and then write out all of the moves, abilities, and effects and whatever on top, one-to-one with the originals. While I could design custom cards with custom effects for a future challenge, for now, I just wanted these proxies to be functionally the same as their real counterparts, just with alternate artwork. I printed all of these cards out on paper and then cut them out. In order to get them tournament ready, I took each sheet of paper, put it on top of a basic energy card, and then slid them both into a card sleeve. I had a ton of extra card sleeves and energy cards lying around. However, the whole process started to feel a bit redundant once I started putting a picture of an energy card on top of an energy card. These cards are worth less than a cent on average, by the way. The complete 60-card proxy deck, all illustrated by me, and it is complete and ready to play. I had finally done it, building a deck with only my own illustrations, but now it was time to answer that question that I raised at the start of the video. Can I win a Pokemon card tournament with this deck? Let's take this thing to locals and find out.
Hello there, what is your name?
Daniel.
Daniel? What deck are you playing today?
I'm playing Dragon.
Nice. And then who's your favorite Pokemon?
Definitely Wooper. I'm trying to collect every single card of him right now.
That's a good choice. Love me some Wooper.
Do you like?
What is your name?
I'm Jeffrey.
Nice to meet you. Wait, I've met you before. Never mind. What deck are you playing today?
I'm playing Hydrapple EX.
Oh, nice. Love Hydrapple. And then who's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon's Hydrapple.
Nice. Good choice.
The day was Sunday, which meant casual league in my local card store. By the time I had arrived, there was still a bit of time before the tournament began. I got to play some practice games against a Dragapult EX deck, and got to chat with some of the other players. Because this was a local league tournament and not something officially sanctioned by the Pokemon Company, I was able to use my proxy cards without any issues. However, that doesn't mean that there were no stakes involved in this tournament. The players that ended the tournament with the most wins got a large amount of store credit that I could use on more Pokemon cards for my addiction. With all that said, let's begin moving into this best of one, 30 minutes per round Swiss tournament with 4 rounds, and go over what exactly happened and if I actually won. My first match of the tournament was against Samil's Dragapult EX deck. Just my luck that the first match that I was in was against one of the most talented players in our area, but I knew that I was cooked the second I picked up my 7-card starting hand. I had to put into play Fezandipity EX to start, which isn't very good since my opponent needs to take a knockout before I can actually use its effective ability. The only other cards in my hand were some evolution Pokemon that I can't play yet, some energy cards, and Meowth EX. Very little resources that I could use to establish a strong board state. Meowth EX is usually a strong card because its ability lets you search your deck for a supporter card when you play it. I could use this to find a Lily's Determination and get a fresh new hand of 8 cards, but there was just one small problem. I was going first, and you can't play a supporter card on your first turn going first. I just had to attach an energy card to Fezandipity and wait. On the other hand, Samil's turn was the complete opposite. He was able to throw down a bunch of basic Pokemon onto his bench that are ready to evolve, and then attack with Budew, meaning that I couldn't use item cards on my next turn. I could play a Meowth to find a supporter here though. I chose to search for Dawn in order to get a basic Pokemon, Stage 1 Pokemon, and a Stage 2 Pokemon, and start setting up my little guys ready to evolve later. But the lack of item playing meant that it took me way too long to get my Pokemon set up. It doesn't help that Samil was playing a full set of my least favorite card in the game, Crushing Hammer. This is an item card that lets you flip a coin, and if heads, you can discard an energy card from any of your opponent's Pokemon. By playing these, my setup was going to be even slower if he flipped heads. By the time I was finally able to get my Mega Greninja into play, Samil's board was already full of ready-to-evolve Draclokes with energy attached. He even used Unfair Stand, which meant that I had to shuffle my hand and put it back into my deck, losing all the resources that I had spent the last few turns building up. When he used Boss's orders to knock out my Fezandipity and Budew in the same turn, and take half his prize cards, I knew it was pretty much time to pack it up. I played the best that I could, but this time the cards just weren't in my favor. Definitely not a great way to start the tournament, but maybe I could still get 3 wins at the end of the day? Game 2 was against Dez with yet another Dragapult EX deck, but this time, rather than using the annoying Crushing Hammers, Dez was able to use the Dusknoir evolution line. Dusclops and Dusknoir have abilities that can knock themselves out in exchange for placing damage anywhere on my board. However, there's a card in my deck tailor-made to counter these guys, and that is Psyduck. I had to open with Fezandipity again, but thanks to some Pokepads in my hand, my first turn was much more effective than last time. However, during Dez's first turn, he made a crucial mistake that helped me reach victory. He played the stadium card, Team Rocket's Watchtower, which shuts off the abilities of colorless Pokemon, like Meowth EX. For the whole game, Dez struggled to find the energy cards he needed to attack. He even used Boss's Orders at one point to bring my Psyduck to the active spot, and he could have knocked it out too if he had a single energy card, but he just couldn't. And if he hadn't played that stadium, he could have used Meowth EX to search for the supporter Crispin, which lets him directly search his deck and get the energy cards he needed to take those knockouts. Even after using Unfair Stamp, my bird state was in such a strong place that I was able to take big knockouts and win before my opponent even took a single prize card. If the rest of my games went like this, I could easily still win some store credit. My third game was up against Lucas with a third Dragapult EX deck. Unfortunately for me, this deck once again played those Crushing Hammers that crushed my dreams in Game 1. Crushing Hammer? I hardly know her. My game was off to a super strong start. I was able to set up my basic Pokemon ready to evolve on my first turn, and grab a bunch of energy cards ready to attach. Lucas, on the other hand, was taking things a bit slow. For the first half of this game, I thought I had things in the bag. Little did I know, I would be the cause of my own downfall. While I could have been a bit luckier with my draws in this game, the main reason why I lost was because of two crucial misplays that I made during this game. For one, when choosing where to place damage with Mega Greninja's ability, I put damage on his Pheasantipede EX, thinking I could take it out later with the 200 damage from Mega Greninja. However, I completely forgot that I had a fighting type Greninja in my deck that, for 1 energy, does double damage to Pheasantipede because of its weakness. What I should have done is place damage on a card like Shaman with only 80 HP and try to punch it later with another one of Mega Greninja's ability. You see, when attacking with Mega Greninja, you're given the option to do extra damage by putting an energy attached to it back into your hand. My other big misplay was choosing not to pick up my Neo Upper Energy in this moment. I knew that Lucas had the Crushing Hammers in his deck, but in my mind, I thought it would be more likely for him to disrupt my hand with the Neo Upper Energy in it, using a card like Unfair Stamp or Special Red card, rather than using Crushing Hammer and landing on heads. He then proceeded to use Crushing Hammer to send my energy to the discard pile. Oh, how the tables have turned. Even though I only needed one more prize card to win, without that energy and without the extra damage on his bench, I just couldn't make it in time. I was now at 1 win and 2 losses, all of which were against Dragapult. This guy is the stuff of nightmares, and I hate him. Going into my final game, my morale was pretty low, but at least I wouldn't have to fight Dragapult for the 4th time in a row. My opponent was Will with his Cynthia's Garchomp EX deck, which is a powerful card that wants to give its Pokemon high HP with the attachable tool card Cynthia's Power Weight. However, just like my game with Dez, Will couldn't find the energy he needed to make any meaningful attacks. I got started by using Terra Greninja for the first time to knock out some benched Pokemon. Because I was able to eventually set up 2 Mega Greninja, it meant that I could use its ability twice in one turn and pull off some really nasty combos. Like in the final turn of the game where I used 2 Mortal Shurikens and an attack from Greninja to take 3 prize cards at once, and sweep the rest of the game before my opponent could take 1. My final record was 2 wins and 2 losses. So, I didn't win. I'm officially washed. At least I made back the money I gave for my entry fee. That, my friends, is the Pokemon trading card game with a deck fully illustrated by me. To answer the question that I posed at the beginning of the video, no. You cannot win a Pokemon card tournament with only cards you illustrated yourself. But to be fair, that didn't really have an effect on the gameplay at all, and winning was never really the point of this project. It was all about pushing my art in a new and unique way, and having some fun playing this game I love. And while I was at the tournament, I still had a great time, and everyone there seemed to think my illustrations were pretty cool. While I didn't win the tournament, I still won emotionally. Hey there, champ. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, let me know in the comments. And if you didn't like it, let me know in the comments. I want your feedback to help me improve on future videos and continue to grow. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, I'm off to my local card store to turn $200 worth of Pokemon card packs into $3 worth of product. Bye-bye.
Player playing off against someone in their first tournament or whatever, it's like little Timmy from Ohio, his favorite Pokemon is Charizard and his favorite food is glue. Not going to happen here.